and Audrey Wren. Welcome to the Wrens. It being 5 o'clock, this meeting held by council under section 34 of the Planning Act is now called to order. I now need an approval and adoption of the public meeting minutes from April 19th, 2022, please. Moved by Merv, second by Tim. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Sign these. Members are to state any pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof before items are discussed. Are there any declarations this afternoon? I see none. This public meeting is to consider an amendment to the Township of Bonnechere Valley zoning bylaw 2006-28. The purpose of the amendment is to rezone approximately 0.93 hectares of land that is being severed into two parcels, each containing an existing dwelling. The dwelling at 685 Lake Clear Road will consist of two parcels of land that are physically separated by Lake Clear Road that have been and will continue to be legally tied together on title as a single lot. It will consist of an existing waterfront parcel and the retained lands of consent application B91/21. These lands are zoned residential for exception 1 and residential exception 4-2. The zoning amendment proposes to modify the R4-E1 and R4-E2 zone provisions and the map schedule of the zoning bylaw to carry over requirements that will continue to apply to these lands and update the legal description for the resulting lot. The dwelling at 662 Lake Clear Road will consist of the severed lands of consent application B91/21. These lands are zoned residential for exception 2. The zoning amendment proposes to rezone them from residential for exception 2 to residential for exception 3. The R4-3E3 zone will be added as a new subsection to the zoning bylaw that will carry over requirements that will continue to apply to these lands and update the legal description for the resulting lot. The R4-E3 zone will also be added to the map schedule. No new use or change in use is proposed for any of these lands. All other provisions of the zoning bylaw will apply. The public meeting is a requirement of the Planning Act. In accordance with the Planning Act, notice must be given at least 20 days before the public meeting is held. Would the clerk please report on the circulation of notice?
Sure. So on April 20th, 2022, the notice was circulated to all the property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. It was mailed to the agencies as required under the Planning Act. The notice was published in the Eganville Leader and it appeared in the the notice was in the edition of the newsletter of the Eganville Leader on April 20th. It was also posted on the township's website as well.
Thank you. The 20-day notice have been given. I now declare the meeting properly constituted to transact its business. Would the clerk please report on any written comments received?
There wasn't any.
Thank you. Do any members of the public wish to speak to the amendment? Do we have anybody on YouTube?
No.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought I should probably check. Does the owner or agent for the property wish to speak to the amendment? Are there any questions or comments from members of council? This therefore completes the public meeting process. Council will give careful consideration to the arguments for and or against the zoning amendment requested for this property. The bylaw will be brought forward to the June 7th, 2022 meeting of council for consideration of passing. Should this bylaw be passed, a notice of passing will then be circulated as required under the Planning Act, and there would be an appeal period after the notice of passing was sent out of 20 days. Any person wishing to receive written notice of the adoption of the amendment being considered at this meeting must leave their name and mailing address with the township clerk in writing or use the chat function if attending by Zoom conferencing. As required by section 34(14.5) of the Planning Act, council is required to inform the public of who is entitled to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal under sections 34(11) and 19. Under section 34(11), if council decides to refuse an application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on an application within 120 days of the municipal clerk receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Section 3419, not later than 20 days after the given notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submissions at the public meeting or made a written submission to council before the bylaw was passed or to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. I now declare this public meeting closed. Thank you. That was a lot.
That was a long one.
That was speed reading at its best. All right, and now our next one is
550.
515.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Thank you.
right? Use the gavel and throw down.
Yeah, I'm not the chair anymore.
We're back up? Perfect. All right, so it is just waiting for my clock to change. Just saying.
It's 5:15.
It's 5:15. So welcome to this public meeting of the Township of Bonnechere Valley. On May 17th, 2022, the time is 5:15. The applicant is Mark and Wendy and Bessie. Being 5:15, this meeting held by council under section 45 of the Planning Act is now called to order. Members are to state any pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof before items are discussed. Are there any declarations this evening? I see none. This public meeting is for the closing, stopping up and sale to the adjoining landowner thereof, that portion, the original shoreline road allowance fronting their property along Lake Clear in the geographic township of Sebastopol in the township of Bonnechere Valley. The lands affected are more particularly described as follows. That portion of unopened shore road allowance, Lake Clear, located in front of Plan 429, Lot 7, in the geographic township of Sebastopol, municipally known as 366 Klondike Road. Property is owned by Mark and Wendy in Bessie. And I apologize to them if I am mispronouncing their name. The public meeting is a requirement of the Public Planning Act. In accordance with the Planning Act, notice must be given at least 20 days before the public meeting is held. Would the clerk please report on the circulation of notice?
On April 20th, 2022, the notice was circulated to all the property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. It was mailed to the agencies as required under the Planning Act. The notice was published in the Eatonville Leader, and it appeared in the April 20th, 2022 edition. The notice of the meeting was also posted on the township's website.
Thank you. The 20-day notice have been given. I now declare this meeting properly constituted to transact its business. Would the clerk please report on any written comments received?
There wasn't any.
Thank you. Do any members of the public wish to speak to the amendment? Do I have anybody on YouTube or on Zoom? Thank you. Are there any questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none. This therefore completes the public meeting process. If council agrees to the purchase, the applicant is required to get a registered plan of survey. Council cannot pass the bylaw regarding the purchase until a registered plan of survey is completed and a copy received at our office. I declare this public meeting closed. Thank you.